Yeah, the real big reason why is just because I don't want anybody to have to go through a lot of the stuff that I had to go through. And honestly, we always had a roof over our head. We always had food to eat. So like there's people that have had it worse than me, but I remember putting rent on a credit card because there was nothing left. I can remember, eating, just random noodles that we had in the cabinet because there was just nothing. Um, and yeah, and it didn't have to be that way. Like we had enough money to be able to be fine. But, because of, my spending habits and all that, and then you introduce credit cards and things like that, that was just a recipe for just, me digging a bigger and bigger hole.
Welcome, everybody, back to another exciting show, the About That Water podcast, where we help you build strong financial habits so that you feel comfortable talking about money, spending money, and even wasting money. So one of the cool people that I have coming on just a few moments is a guy who served in the military, actually the Army, for 19 years and has deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. He's established his blog called The Enlisted Money to help enlisted service members avoid the same mistakes that he made and achieve financial freedom. He's earned his Chartered Financial Consultant, the CHFC designation in 2022, and is one of the first military qualified financial planner. How you doing today, Brandon?
Hey, I'm great. I really appreciate you having me on, Anthony.
No problem. And one of the things that I really wanted to have you come on the show today was to really take a deep dive and another look into really adding that resiliency in our finances and really helping us set up a budget so that we don't have that tendency to spend money.
Okay.
Can you talk about a little bit, like, why is it such a hard thing for us to not spend money?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of one of those things that, I've definitely struggled with this a lot. I'm a natural spender. And honestly, I kind of struggled with that a little bit because a lot of, podcasts and, different blogs and stuff like that. I was like, yeah, they're, pretty seemed like a lot of natural savers and stuff like that. And so like some of the stuff wasn't maybe directly applicable to me, but you mentioned a budget and that is something that everybody can use. But we've definitely done a lot of different iterations over the years, and a lot of that is just because of like the way I process and spend money. Like it can't get in my hands because I can't hold on to it. Like I've got big hands and I got a strong grip, it's like, but not on money. Like
Right.
it just slips right through. So a lot of our processes are designed around that. And so, kind of like talking about automation, we segment things into different categories, different buckets, and that mental accounting and doing that, realistic budgeting is something that's helped out a lot over the years.
Yeah. And throughout the years, you always find your ebbs and flows of your finances. And I've found that majority of the time, people has a tendency to spend money when they're happy or when they're sad or when they're hungry or
Mhm.
just because they want to give, especially during the holidays. It's almost like, don't put a price to this, whatever makes you happy. So
Mhm.
is there a way or a structure that we can put in place to kind of help us to kind of hold some of that back and just really be intentional with our finances?
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially like you talking about like the giving and stuff like that. Like I'm really bad about that. Like I'll just be like, hey, here, here's $20 or whatever, and it would drive my wife nuts because she'd be like, oh, we needed that. Like that was we needed that. And so over time, we've actually got a system in place. Like we actually have a set amount of money that goes into a specific giving fund, and then we'll use that. And actually, I actually now carry they're pretty cool. I don't think I have one on me, but they're little Grace Bomb cards, and then keep those in an envelope in my wall or in my car or in both of our cars, just with a little bit of cash. And so like that's like set aside for, hey, if we find somebody that that needs something or whatever, I can give them $20 or buy them a meal or whatever they need and give it to them. But yeah, I mean, I think you really touch on a really important piece is just that, that emotional component of it, because, we need to know what we're going to do in the moment, and then develop systems around that to either, not circumvent it, but, maybe redirect that a little bit or reframe it. That's been really helpful for me, just to know, like, hey, when I say yes to this, I'm saying no to something else. And then, also maybe, hey, you can't do all of what you're wanting to do, but you can do a little bit. And so that's been helpful. And then over time, been able to, like I said, kind of build up like savings accounts, like Christmas, giving, all those kinds of things. We actually put a little bit away each month into high yield savings accounts for some of those, specific things that we want to do.
Yeah. So, who was the first person that actually taught you how to manage money?
Oh, that's a good question. So, I mean, I learned, some real basic, like money management skills when I was fairly young, just because I had a checking account and things like that, and I had to know how to balance a checkbook. So I'd say pretty early on, my mom showed me how to balance a checkbook and all that, because like we did 4-H, and so I had we raised hogs and stuff
Oh,
like
cool.
that, and so you had to basically manage your budget for all that, and that was part of the project. Is you had to have like your initial costs, like how much it costs to buy the feeder pig, how much you bought in feed each year, each month, and all that, and then you take them to the sale at the fair at the end of the year, and then that's kind of how you figure out how you did and all that kind of stuff. So that was actually, yeah, I kind of forgot I even kind of learned that, but that way. But yeah, and then other than that, I don't think I really had a lot of money management skills until later. I just kind of figured out, like, hey, I spent all my money. I need to go make more. And so I got really good at like finding
Making money,
ways to
right?
make money. Yeah. Oh, I'm really good at making
Yeah.
money. I'm even better at spending it though. And so that eventually became a problem, just, over time. So,
Yeah. And one of the things that I found is that we love making money. It's so easy to do. But when it comes to spending, sometimes it depends on, your mindset at the time frame. Like obviously during the fall, it's like, shucks, we ain't going nowhere. Let's spend it. Let's go somewhere. Let's do something fun. But also you created this whole program because you delved into a lot of stuff before you actually finally honed in onto your craft from blogging.
mhm.
And you did this mostly because nobody was out there talking about it the way that you felt was helpful. Can you talk about more of a reason why? What is your big why besides just like, hey, I just want to give this to somebody else?
Yeah, I mean the real big reason why is just because I don't want anybody to have to go through a lot of the stuff that I had to go through. And honestly, we always had a roof over our head. We always had food to eat. So like there's people that have had it worse than me, but I remember putting rent on a credit card because there was not, there was nothing left. I can remember, eating, just random noodles that we had in the cabinet because yeah, like there was just nothing. Um, and yeah, and it didn't have to be that way. Like we had enough money to be able to be fine. But, because of, my spending habits and all that, and then you introduce credit cards and things like that, like, yeah, that was just a recipe for just, me digging a bigger and bigger hole. And and so, I guess my big why is just, nobody needs to do that. And if, if somebody would have told me early on, like, hey man, if you just stay out of debt and invest about, 150, $200 a month starting now and never put any less than that in, away, then you'll be a millionaire someday. Like you just, I would have been like, wait, hold on, say that again, but slow. Like,
Right.
but whenever I was younger, nobody told me that. Like the only thing I knew is that like I had the TSP because I was in the army. But the only thing I got from the brief on it was that they were going to take money out of my check. Like I was like, you're going to take money out of my check, and then maybe it grows, and I get it like when I'm like 60 something. Like, am I even going to be alive then? Like, I don't even know, man. Like, I'm getting ready to go to war. Like, no, I need this money now. Like,
Right. Because one of the things that in your story you mentioned that you started your Roth with just
Mhm.
$50 a month, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
So how is it doing now?
Yeah, I haven't looked in a little bit, but yeah, I think it's because I haven't contributed to it for a long time now. But I think last time I looked, I think there's $43,000 in there.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, actually, it's funny. I didn't really know what a Roth IRA was when I started it. Like, it was just literally like at the end of a phone call, like, the bank that I had, they, did like the upsell kind of thing. Like, hey, by the way, we noticed you don't have a, X, Y,
Yeah.
and Z or what. They would always do that, especially mostly with like insurance stuff. Be like, oh, hey, have you, do you happen to have saw that you got married. Do you have a, whatever, wedding set insurance policy. I'm like, I don't, that's a thing. But anyway, so that's how I started it, and they just said, hey, you can just put $50 a month into it, and it'll grow tax free. And I was like, oh, well, that sounds, sounds good. I think I was deployed at the time, and so I was, kind of felt like I had a bunch of, like extra money. I was, felt like I was, big baller. I was like, yeah, $50, yeah, no,
Right.
no, no problem.
That's no problem. Right.
Yeah. And then I basically forgot about it. And then when I went to transfer it, yeah, I was surprised. It was like 20, because this was after I kind of like started learning about personal finance. It's like, yeah, I should probably do something with that. Like now that I know what it is, and,
What year was this?
that when I transferred it, that would have been in 2018.
Oh, wow. So you've been
Um,
in there for a while. Like I'm just thinking of because Roths are fairly new. So,
mhm.
for you to have that amount, that's really good.
Yeah, and so when I transferred it, I think it was right at $20,000. I forget, it was like 19,800 something or whatever. I think I have it written down somewhere. Um, and yeah, it's more, and I haven't contributed any more to it since then, and it is over doubled. Like, and I don't do anything with it. I just let it ride. And it all started with $50 a month, and so that's like kind of one of those things is like you can't, like do anything you can, at least start with something. If you can get $50, even if you can't get $50, like, you put 20, 10, 20, 30, whatever, until you can, start putting something away. But, yeah, I mean, you can't afford not to start is really like the big thing for me.
That's actually a good title for the show. You can't
Yeah.
afford not to start.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, actually that was, I don't run it anymore, but that was the name of my podcast that I had,
Oh, cool.
called Start 100K, and that was kind of my whole idea. Is like if you just get started and then just focus on getting to that first $100,000, like you'll build all the habits and all that kind of stuff. Like just make it a smaller goal to start, and then from there time will do its thing. So, um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I think I'm definitely a big one of like, hey, just get started. You'll figure it out as you go.
As we got time, because I do want to dive into some of the perks of
Mhm.
being in the military.
Okay.
And also, let's kind of bring it back to why did you even join the military in the first place?
Yeah. As far as like joining the military, funny story about that. So, I more or less, I just didn't want to go to college.
Fair.
And I mean, I knew I didn't want to stay where I was, and I knew I didn't want to go to college because I was like, college is just like harder high school, but you have to pay for it. And I was like, I hate going to school. Like I was so ready to be done with it. Um, and I was smart and I was just as ornery. But so I was like, well, okay, the army says I can go and go get a tech job basically, which I more or less did. I got into satellite communications is what I do, did by trade. Um, and so I'm like, okay, cool. So technology job, all right, that makes, family happy. And, if I decide to go to college, oh, by the way, yep, mom, dad, like they're going to pay for my college. So, that kind of like, it was kind of like the best compromise for me is like, hey, I don't have to do any of the stuff that I don't want to do. And everybody thinks that I'm going to have college. And so I'm like, all right, cool. Let's do this. Um, and then I get in and they're like, hey, in order to get promoted, you're going to need to start taking college classes. And I was like, oh man, got
Right.
me.
You
So,
still can't get away from it.
yeah, but yeah, that was really the big driver. I wish I could say, hey, yeah, it was just, really was inspired to go serve my country or whatever. I mean, there's a component of that too now, but
Hmm.
back then it was really just, I didn't want to, I needed a good job and I didn't want to go to college. So,
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier about like having your child now
mhm.
and that you're married. Would you like be going forward and like your child choose military, or will you give them like not better options, but other options out there in the world?
Mhm.
Like, hey, you can actually do something else.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. And yeah, actually, yeah, my wife and I've talked about that a lot. And the fact of the matter is it's done a lot of great things for me, like a lot of non-tangible benefits. And it I guess full disclosure, I was a recruiter for 3.5 years. So like I've had these conversations with other people and, I really developed a lot of gratitude for the parents that were, um, that were open and willing to let their kids have a conversation with me about, what options they might have in the military. But I also took that really seriously and, I made sure and let them know like, hey, if I don't think this is right for you or, hey, like your goals, like, yeah, you shouldn't enlist. You should probably go to college and do ROTC or something like that. And there's some that I'm like, hey, look, if you don't want to go to boot camp, if you don't want to deploy, like, hey, don't do this because yeah, that's just part of the that's part of the gig. Um, but yeah, I would be very proud of my son if that's a path that he wanted to take. But if he wants to do something else, hey, as long as he's doing something productive and he's a kind and caring person in the world, that's really our main goal.
Yeah. And as you're aging, and all of us are aging,
Yep,
and
little gray.
you have your parents coming in. So, as you're moving into this sandwich generation, how are you
Hmm.
preparing your family to having those tough discussions again with bringing in the parents into your household, or if you want to put them into a home? Like, what do those
Hmm.
conversations look like?
Yeah, those are yeah, because I mean we're starting to have some of those conversations. I mean yeah, and it's a little complicated because like on both sides, like we're our biological parents are not together anymore. So like my mom passed away when she was 55. My dad's since remarried. My wife's parents, they split, and like her mom's remarried, and so there's a lot of really complicated dynamics, and I don't think that that's unique. I mean, I think a lot of people have those types of situations. um, but yeah, I mean, we bring up some of these conversations and it's tricky because like I know my dad fairly well, but I don't know his wife all that well. And same with my wife's mom's husband, or like it's like you kind of tiptoe around those, but eventually like it's going to be a problem. Like and we've kind of discussed some of this, and just because of like my experience and going the all the estate planning courses and like all the different things that I know, like um I kind of like bring it up like, hey, by the way, if you don't happen to have anything in place, this is what the state will have happen if you don't have anything else in place. So like, my dad, I'm like, hey, technically the way that the state splits it up, us kids get half, she gets half, and then we split it's like that's not a good. I mean, we don't have any ill will, and we're not going to kick her out of the house. But if something happens, like now we've got a mess on our hands because now we got to unravel and do paperwork and do all that kind of stuff. I don't know exactly the process for that, but there is a process for that, and probably not very pretty. But then also too, like you mentioned, like long term care, things like that. That's a that's a whole nother beast. And, trying to figure out, you know, those tough conversations of like, I don't want to ask, but I got to ask, like,
Right.
is there any money? Is there not any money? If there isn't any money, like, okay, then now we have to kind of understand, like, your only hope is Medicaid. And then what is that actually going to cover? And, so I mean, it's one of those where, a lot of people think that Social Security Social Security and Medicare are going to take care of a lot of those kind of things, but they don't. Not, like the only thing that really covers that is Medicaid, and that's after you've done the means testing and all that. So basically, you don't have you'll have to liquidate most of your assets in order to qualify, and so that's tough to watch because we've seen that happen with grandparents, and it's really sad to see your grandparents' house go away or see them have to get moved, a couple different times because of money issues. So yeah, it is something that, we think about and, yeah, it's a tough topic, but it's a really important topic.
Hopefully, the Roth that you're building up will be able to, buy the home, so you don't have to worry about selling it at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something that, we'll have to, yeah, I guess we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. But yeah, in theory, I mean, there are quite a few protections for the home, itself. But yeah, it's yeah, I don't know the exact specifics of exactly how that would look and all that, but and it might depend too on which one passes first and all that, and um, yeah, so it could get pretty difficult. But yeah, I mean, we're kind of not like letting them know necessarily, but we're kind of more or less kind of planning to have to kind of step in and do some um you know have to help out with a lot of that kind of stuff, and even more importantly, really thinking about the time aspect of it.
Mhm.
And I think that's actually something that you know we got to see firsthand with my mom. My mom was in the hospital for several months, and so just seeing the time, like, a lot of family stepped in to kind of help. And, we're all like, obviously I couldn't take leave for that much time. And, but my work was pretty flexible with me.
That's
And,
good.
and we just happened to live fairly close. So, but having that time flexibility, as you've got parents that are getting older and have issues and stuff like that, they might be in the hospital for a while and, have to have care at the house and have mobility issues and all the, so those are things that I definitely think about as like having that flexibility to go and assist, or, hey, what does that cost to have, a nurse come by once a week or whatever,
Yeah. Can you
yeah.
give
And
us a
like my dad.
ballpark for that price?
Hmm?
Because I know, at least in Maryland, I think it was around almost about 1,000 or so just to have a nurse there around the clock for about a week.
Yeah, I actually don't know off the top of my head how much that would cost. I'd have to price that out. Probably should start looking into that, but yeah, I know it's not cheap.
No.
Because yeah, I mean, yeah, you look at listings and stuff like that. I mean, nurses get paid fairly well, and then the company, of course, takes a cut. So whoever they work for is going to take a pretty big cut. So I assume it's not going to be cheap. So probably
Yeah.
probably cost more than my hourly wage. So
True. Yeah. Just looked online. Look like at seniorliving.org has like a basic price down breakout. So they saying for the state of Maryland for home care, for about 8 hours is $195. And that's just for the day. So, you take that, you paying somebody's hourly wage, like
mhm.
their living wage to come to your home. And goes to the aspect of what you were talking about before, which is preparing yourself financially for this situation, especially if the parents can handle it or the medical, um, guess either their life insurance, they can't cash those out if they got like a whole life that they can kind of dip into. Um, and because obviously you can't do that with term life, but whole life you can at least tap into. And then Like, what does it all look like? And I think this is a great conversation to kind of start talking about, our futures and where we want to go with that. And
Hmm.
which comes down to the third segment of the show, which is your futures.
Hmm.
Talking about the skills and habits that you feel that will help take you to that next level.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as I mean, the future for, for us, I mean, one of the biggest things that I think about is building up multiple streams of income and then how, how to convert those into kind of more long lasting assets and things like that, and kind of what that looks like. And I think I have a pretty unique perspective because I get the I have the ability to look at like people that are actually in retirement and some of the issues and things that they're looking at. So doing the pair planning and stuff like that whenever I build a financial plan and look through all that, run scenarios for Roth conversions, like all those kinds of things, I get to see like a lot of the different issues that they're dealing with now. And then I can kind of apply that. If you ever read the book, The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, like that concept, begin with the end in mind. I'm like, okay, well, if this is how, if this is what it's going to look like, at the end, then I probably need to make a couple different changes and things like that for what we're doing now and need to make sure we're set up and all that. And so I think I'm very blessed in being able to have that perspective and then juxtapose that with I know all the things that I should have done when I was younger. Um, and then I can take that and go, okay, hey, you know, person that, like young version of me, please listen, like, like grab them by the shirt collar, like, hey, listen to me, like, and try and get that across. And so that's why, part of the reason why, like, I'm really big, on Roth and things like that. But then also, like I said, looking at different streams of income and then kind of what that's going to look like. Just because, there's like when you're accumulating and stuff like that, nobody talks about things like required minimum distributions or, the widow's penalty or that thing, different things like that. And so that can be, yeah, it can be something that you really want to look at a little more carefully as you kind of build things up.
Yeah. And it's good that you're talking about that now and looking back because the whole reason why you created your platform, the enlisted money, is for that purpose. Is to kind of help people kind of have those tough conversations early and make those adjustments early so they don't have to worry about digging deep in their feelings. Have the logic already laid out, worry about your feelings later, and just make life happen. And I greatly appreciate what you're doing for the service members and also continuing to serve the community as best as you can. And I just thank you for your service for that.
Yeah, yeah, no, I appreciate that, and yeah, that's kind of the idea. I'm hoping that basically creating everything that I wish I would have read, consumed, and applied whenever I was younger. And then, I guess what my goal with all that is like help people solve that money equation first and get that out of the way. So then you can work on the life stuff, like all the important stuff. Like I want you to get to be who you were meant to be in life so that you don't have the regrets that I do and have to fumble through it and all that. And so I think if, I think there's plenty of us out there, yourself included, like just trying to help people out. And I think as a community, we can all come together, get people where they need to be faster. So then we can all make this place like so much better. So I really
Definitely.
appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. Is there anything that you want to leave the audience before we dive into the final four questions?
Um, no, I think we kind of hit it up. I mean, just with that, hey, just getting started is super important, and then also just being okay with what my system is doesn't have to look like this person's system or that person's system, and you don't have to have a huge income to start making a huge impact in your life.
Definitely. I like that. I like that. Now, one of the things that, we both say this is that personal finance is personal.
Yeah.
And, I hope that we actually get to hang out in FinCon this year. And definitely, I know you've been doing your thing with Mill Money Con because, congrats on your speaking engagement with them as well. Man, you're doing a lot of
Thanks.
great things. Anything like in the future that you plan on getting into?
Yeah. I mean, I guess the one cool thing I guess I can share with you. Yeah. I been selected as one of the American College of Financial Services Next Gen Financial Professional awardees. So I'll be
Congrats.
going to accept that. Yeah, thanks. So I'll be going to accept that at the college's president's dinner in November. But yeah, that's kind of a kind of neat. But then the other like big project that I'm working on, kind of near term, I don't know exactly when I'll get it done, but I'm working on my book, Enlist to Wealth, and
Nice.
so yeah, basically that is basically a book that I just want to be like, here, do these things, and you'll never have to worry about money again. And so that's really like what I'm trying to make that book that I wish somebody had handed me whenever I was 18, getting ready to leave for basic training. Those are kind of like the two like big like things like that. But personal to me, really, it's just I'm getting ready to go. Getting ready for like actual like retirement from the army, and so yeah, kind of been mentally processing that. You've probably seen some of the articles and
Hmm.
stuff like that, kind of just mentally processing that. And then also like, okay, hey, I've been planning for this. So, but now it's real. Like I got the orders in hand. So now it's time to bring it all together, and really make it happen and nail that transition out of the army.
Yeah. And I can't wait to see where you go because definitely want to do a follow-up interview just to kind of see what does retirement actually look like for you.
Yeah.
And then we can pull up this episode like, hey, we talked about this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you and I both are interested to see what it looks like. Cause, yeah, right now I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I've got, cause I've already got my business separate from, enlisted money. And so like, that's my paraplanning and content writing business. And that does well. It's been profitable from day one. And
Good.
so, the idea would be kind of turn that up a little bit. And there might be some other stuff in the works. And so we'll see. But yeah, but I think to your point, yeah, I definitely want to connect with you and other people like you at places like FinCon and Mill Money Con, and there's a couple other conferences I haven't had a chance to go to, like Economy and places like that I really want to check out. They just seem like cool places to go and meet very interesting people and kind people. And so that's really what I just want to fill my life with, other cool and interesting people. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, you ready for the final four?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Number one, what does wealth mean to you?
Wealth to me, really just like the word wealth, is the accumulation of your life's energy, and what form that takes. And so, to me, wealth is not just a money thing, but I would say it's a sum of all the memories of you that are collected within other people and other entities around the world. And so that's kind of ties into, like, for me, like my goal is every person, place, organization that I'm a part of, I want to leave it better than whenever I got it. And so so that's kind of how I think about a lot of the things that I do, and I just try and become better each day. So my personal mission statement is perpetual improvement. So that's when I think of the word wealth, that's what I really think about is, I guess, almost legacy, thinking about that, but also too, the money component of that is important because that is a catalyst for those other things. So, a lot of these aspirational things that I want to do, they do take a little bit of money. So, so I think there's a component of that too.
So true. Number two, what was your worst money mistake?
Ooh, I would say, hmm, like biggest single money, like worst money mistake was financing a brand new pickup truck. Which, I mean, I say that it's my worst and best financial decision because that was actually what got me to understand, like, I'm spending a lot in interest. And that's what, kind of led me down the path to, I found a, personal, it still exists, but not the same, but Get Rich Slowly. I found that blog and was reading through there, and then that led me to Dave Ramsey, which led me to Debt Free, which then eventually, you can kind of pull on these breadcrumbs and see where it led. But really that truck was kind of the catalyst for me, like going, hey, idiot, like this is not like this is not going to work long term. Like you could have almost bought the truck you liked and before in cash, like for what you're going to pay in interest. So I was like, yeah, this is doesn't compute, Brandon. You've got to figure something out. So.
Number 3, what is your favorite financial or non-financial book?
Oh, that is a think. I read so many books, and there's so many that I really, really like. I think I really come back to the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Like that one, it can apply to so many different realms. But I think it's just one of those that's been really, really it's on my list of books that every human being should read. I think that one's a good one. But personal finance books, if I could only pick one, it'd probably right now be The Psychology of Money. It's just a really digestible, and get those basic concepts, like how to think about it.
Number 4, what is your favorite dish to make?
Ooh, my favorite dish to make. Let me think about that, man. Because I like barbecue. You might not know this. My first website I ever made was a barbecue website.
Really? No, I didn't know that.
So yeah. So my favorite dish to make would be, trying to think. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go with something a little bit different. So one of my favorite ones to share with people is gravy and dumplings.
Gravy and dumplings?
Yeah. So instead of like biscuits and gravy, instead of like, chicken and dumplings. So, I make it's like really thick, like sausage and bacon gravy, and then put the biscuit on top and then bake it. And so then you've got this layer of biscuit. I mean, you need a nap after you eat it, but yeah, no, it's that's probably my favorite one to make for other people and share. So.
All right. Well, I definitely have to hit you up on that dish whenever you make it.
Come on up.
Right.
Just make sure you bring a pillow so you can take a nap afterwards. So you're not safe to drive after.
Well, dude, I'll just stay at the hotel. Like, I'm gonna crash out.
There you go. All
right. So the very last question of the show, which is, where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, I mean, really, my favorite way to connect with people is through my newsletter. You can just sign up on enlistedmoney.com. But if you're, social media and stuff like that, all the links are there as well. I'm probably the most active on Instagram. But yeah, really, I love it whenever people jump on the newsletter and reply to something I wrote or whatnot. And it's I've had a lot of really wonderful conversations with people there, so I really like that.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll definitely have to sign up for it after this interview and see what you're talking about over there.
All right. Yeah. Look forward to it.
Yeah. Is there, well, by all means, I mean, first off, I just want to thank you again, Brandon, for your time, for your service, and for everything that you're doing for the community, the financial community, because, again, we got to start having more open discussions about our finances, so that we can continue to build that confidence within ourselves and with our family and friends, so that we all can just enjoy life and know that life is more about money. But this topic is always coming up. So let's have some confidence around the discussion. And I want to continue on to bring more content like this to you all. So please make sure you like and subscribe, because this is very important for the show and it's free for you to do, so that we can have on more guests like Brandon and so many others. And I just want to thank you all for your time. Y'all have a good one. Be out. Peace.